Okay. Any comments or questions for Tagore on this wrap up? You just raise your hand if you have a question or a comment. I think everybody here knows how to do that. Alan?
Hi, Tagore. One of the things that becomes apparent as you were going through this summary is the contrast between the book of John and the synoptic gospels, and how many things are in the book of John that are not found in the others. Now, there are some things that are found, such as the triumphal entry, and of course, the Passover, and there's so many things. There are some things that are found, but you really see the contrast much sharper as you went through the summary, and we can understand why John wrote his gospel after the others were written, in order to provide for those who would receive that gospel the other perspective, another perspective that was not synoptic. So it was quite a journey for over 2 years to follow along and to gain a great value from all the various presentations that you labored in love to give to us. So for that, I just say thank you very much for your commitment and a dedication to providing such a thing for the brethren. Now I'll let someone else comment.
I placed in the chat room the link to the YouTube playlist for the John studies. So if you cut and paste that into some notebook or whatever, or you can open a browser and cut and paste and make it a favorite. But that's the link that'll take you directly to the John study. Any other comments? Dan? You have to unmute.
Okay, I had trouble unmuting.
Sure.
Yeah, I like the fact that you took a kind of an unstructured pace. You know, there was no time crunch. There was no, we have to finish by this date. You took it as the Spirit led, and on certain parts where we needed to have a lot of discussion, you allowed for that. Some of the verses that we did not have need a lot of discussion, we went over those a little more quickly, which was good. And it was a little bit unstructured as far as speed. We sped up when we needed to, and when we needed to slow down and go into more detail, we did that. And I thought that was an excellent way to handle it. And that allowed you to cover more thoroughly the parts that needed to be covered more thoroughly. I'm done.
Yes, Dan, I believe we did that. Certain important topics which the teacher felt they are important. I spent lots of time, and some just story kind of things, story events. I kind of not spent that much time. That's true. We took 3 or 4 presentations on just chapter 6. But some chapters there, we did it like whole chapter in one presentation. Yeah, that's right.
Willard?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce, I guess, or ditto what Stan said, in that I think that Tagore's teaching style is exactly what's needed I have no criticism whatsoever of it. And I think it's masterful and very thorough and very sensitive to the needs. And I thank you so very, very much. And we are exceedingly fortunate to have such a teacher amongst us. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thoughts, ideas, suggestions? While everyone else is thinking, I'll just say that I think the pace was about right. At the beginning, we were a little slow, but then we picked it up. And the use of the PowerPoints, Tagore, you do an excellent job of using all the tools available in PowerPoint in conveying the idea or a full thought. And again, when we would talk before, or you'd say, well, what's what I'm planning to do? And I'm kind of thinking, really, 3 for one thing? And then when you get into it, then it's like, oh yeah, we're going to need time for this. So yeah, I think the pace was right on.
And also I try to teach as truthfully as I can, as I see it, I speak it. Of course, 100% I believe and live what I teach, which I am convicted of, which I see in the scriptures, without bias, without favoritism, or any fear. I just spoke what I see in scriptures. I'm not against any group to put them down, but where scriptures are taking, I want to go there. And I also want everybody to go there and benefit.
Okay, Gillian?
Thank you, Tigor, for a very visual also a presentation, which I'm very much needed, and especially if it has to be conveyed to less mature or even unschooled. I mean, unschooled is don't know how to read or write. So God willing, this can also be, if not fully, but part of the institute that will be, God willing, be put up here in Palawan. So you were talking about the Caucasian and us Asian, but we have to consider Christ was Asian. He is part of Asia. The culture is similar to more Asian than in the West, where the mind is Greek set. Mindset is Greek, where Asians and the original Jewish context, they are Jews, they are in Asia, and the Asian root, that where Nazareth is located, is a very busy route from Asia to the West, wherein at that time, I think Asia, if India is the one of the oldest civilizations, and Babylon and all this stuff, you could see the influence if not of Babylon, of India. I'm talking now just in the physical, even up to Saudi Arabia, they have the belly dancing, or their costume of those in Saudi Arabia is similar to Indian costume. And probably the jewelry and everything else has been influenced even from India. So the mindset, or the what's in there spiritually, I know it's from the Lord, and spiritually, Israel, we are all there as one. And what is basic is we are all from Noah. And if we're all from Noah, where did he land? Where did he stay? Where did it all happen? So it's just all the religions that are the gods, the fake gods, also came from this area, especially the higher ups, like the Greek gods and the Egyptian gods. So, and I'm sure Tagore knows there's even millions of gods in India. So he knows what he's talking about also on the spiritual side, because he comes from that area where there is a bombardment of spiritual warfare that's going on. I think that's why he had to go back here, there in the US, because if like he said, he has a friend who went there and he wasn't strong enough. He got sucked into the whole, back to the old ways. So we're still in Babylon, in Egypt, spiritual Egypt, and what's the other Babylon? I forgot what other, three of them. It's still around, and we just have to find the Goshen and stay there. So for Tigor and Allen, that's Florida area. And for us here in the Philippines, looks like a lot of Jews are starting to hide here in Palawan, especially. Any case, we'll find out soon enough. I'll keep you informed in this part of the world. Thank you so much. And I look forward to more of maybe a continuation of First John, and maybe it's a continuation of what John the Gospel is. And it connects with Revelation on the Tuesday night group, which is my Wednesday. Thank you so much. God bless.
Dan?
Yes, Tagore, when you were a little while ago describing your teaching style, it's interesting, but when you finished, the immediate thought that came to mind, because of the type of teaching style you described, was there's a man in whom there is no guile. I'm done.
Marlene?
I just want to make a comment that I thought your way you present your material is just in such a way that it's for all levels of understanding, and that's a gift to be able to do that, to present material that way, and appreciate that. And I loved you brought out in your presentation, really hit tonight when you went through all the different new concepts, the spiritual concepts, because Christ came to teach spiritual concepts. That's what he taught. Murder is not just a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing if you hate. So he taught the spiritual concepts, and your list really brought out those spiritual concepts that he taught. And I liked your comment about truth in liquid form with the water, in the water. That was kind of clever. That's all.
Thank you, Marlene, Gail, Stan, Alan. Thank you for using that statement that there's no Gail. Thank you very much, Stan.
Any other comments or thoughts?
I have my comment. People thank me, but I want to big thank you to Don and Peggy for making this possible. It would not be possible for 2.5 years to hold on and continual support. There are good days and bad days for any person, but you guys are so persistent in providing the platform. I tried this in other rooms. I couldn't finish any of these series that I started. This is the first room I am able to finish completely with a concluding message. So I want to give credit and thank you to both to Dawn and Peggy also. She steps in on Tuesdays also. Thank you very much for making this possible for this series.
Well, you're welcome. That's what we do, and it's what we've done since the beginning. Provide the means for someone like yourself to be able to teach. So you're helping us to fulfill our mission. What's that, dear?
We have no gift of teaching.
Yeah, we have no gift of teaching. We're the facilitator.
I don't have that gift. So somebody has to help.
Right. We facilitate. I try to be the salesman and make it happen. And we work together. That's the key. Working together. And of course, without everybody whose names are on this would be an incredible waste of time, because we'd be putting this out to nobody. Without an audience, it's hard to have something to give. Aileen? You have to mute.
Hi. Yeah. I just want to congratulate then every one of us, because we just finished the book, the Gospel of John. It's a congratulations. It's like going through a school, and we finish it in 2.5 years. I just realized that, wow, we just graduated and there's still more.
That's true. You are graduated now. You should have graduation party.
Yeah, how? Just saying, oh, we just finished, we just graduated. Oh, it's another thing to look forward to, is another gospel or another book.
Well, in the colleges, they have the spring break and their parties. So I guess we're all going to Alan's house after this is done and continue a party celebration. Jim?
Hey, Tagore, even though I didn't catch all of your series, I just have to say, I just have to mention that you're always yelling and screaming and so on, and obviously have no real scholarship behind what you're teaching, that it really came across that way. And my wife is saying sometimes people can't tell irony and sarcasm. I have to say, I truly appreciate a true scholar presenting things in the best way they can. And sometimes, people want to say, how can you be so sure in what you believe? And I'm simply going to say, if I'm teaching this, I believe it. I may change tomorrow, but I think that's the only way teachers can teach. So thank you very much.
Appreciate very much, Jim, and thanks back to you and to your wife. There's a survey we would like you to fill it up as a feedback. Don has sent that with last email. There are like 5 or 6 questions. Don,
I'm
would you-
not, I got one.
So those are the questions we have put together. And you can feel free to comment now, any of you. Or you can even reply back to Don.
This is in Word, so you can just add your comment behind here or just write down here, whatever. Just a simple Word document and then email it back. We can kind of go through it now and, verbally. What, dear?
That would be a good idea.
Okay. See how I'm gonna do this. It is being shared, dear. I can't see who's where. Okay, I can see it now. I just moved it. So what did we do well with the series? What thing stands out or item that stands out that we did well? All right, where'd it go? Lost my word. Okay, Alan?
What did we do well? The preparation that was done to do these studies was fairly comprehensive. And I think that's one of the things that was done well, is that the degree to which we went line by line and explored the various concepts and ideas that were contained in each line was very comprehensive. And there were no major things passed over and kind of abandoned along the way, especially since every individual was permitted to bring up anything they wanted to. At any time after each study, you were permitted to raise questions, make comments, ask for clarification. And so it is upon each individual who is present. If they don't ask the question, that's their fault. If they don't ask for clarification, if they don't bring something up that they feel needs more attention, then that's their fault. So this is what the participation responsibility and actually your duty towards not just yourself, but to all those who are present, to your brethren whom you love. And that was the opportunity that was given to each one. So while everything was done comprehensively, each one also could raise what they wanted to raise in discussion time. So that was what we did, what Tagore did very well, I feel, as he went through the series.
Mhm. Marlene? Oops.
Comment was like what Alan had just said, the study that goes into that before it's presented. You had a very in-depth background study to what you presented.
Stan?
Yeah, somewhat of a general comment on what we did well, but it does apply to this. The opportunity for people to express a viewpoint or ask a question. By that I mean, and I want to contrast it, I've been in studies where it's a free-for-all if you want to say something, and basically, I'll be quite frank, you have to be a Budinsky to get a word in. And in those studies, I've noticed certain people dominating and other people kind of giving up. Well, I guess I'm just not fast enough on the trigger to get in. But in this one, with the hand raising, and this is where the general comment comes in, but it does apply to this one. With the hand raising, people know that, yes, I need to exercise a little patience, but I will get a chance to get in and make the statement. And that impresses me every time we have one of these meetings, whether it's Friday night, Saturday morning, Tuesday night. I'm very impressed with that overall process. And again, it did show itself in Tagore's studies. Raise your hand, be patient. Sooner or later, the moderator, Don or Peggy, will call on you and you will get a chance. That never ceases to impress me in a good way. Let's keep that up. I'm done.
Right, another thing we tried to do, or I tried to do, is I know the phones don't see what's going on. And if there is a lot of people in the queue, I try to say Alan and Anne Marie and Willard and then Stan. So you know there's 3 people in front of you. Not, you know, you're waiting and waiting and waiting. I've been trying to do that, and that hopefully that helps. Willard?
Yeah, one of the things that this has a very, very few exceptions to the fact that between the two of you, between you and Tagore, Don, there were relatively few hijackings, and that used to frustrate me a lot of people taking over and getting off topic and just wearing it out, and they're just precious. It's not that it did not occur, but it was so seldom and handled well in every case, and that I particularly appreciate, and thank you both.
Okay. Oh, Sandra? Go ahead, Sandra.
Oh, yeah, I saw I'm muted, but now I'm not. Okay. Now what was I saying? Oh, in speaking to Willard, most of those hijackings were during the open conversation part. But I like that during the study, so much respect is given to the study itself with no interruptions. And then one other thing, let me go back to my notes, that I have a comment that doesn't apply to the actual Bible study, but well, yeah, for Tagore it does. He made a statement tonight, I'm not against any group to put them down. And that I really appreciate. We need to concentrate on what we're studying, on the Bible itself, and not be putting down other groups, people in the past, what we've been through, because not everybody went through those same things we did. You know, we find that in our small groups that it's Greek to them. They don't even know what we're talking about, the struggles of 1995 or White Church of God. And so I like that that is kept to a minimum, especially by Tagore. Over.
Thanks, Sandra. Least interesting thing for me is church politics. But if there's a doctrinal issue, I would address that. Otherwise, I'll just keep myself away from it.
Yeah, and over the years, being that I've attended many independent groups and organized, whatever you want to call the larger groups, it becomes apparent between groups of who has chips on their shoulder or so much negative to talk about the others. I find that so unnecessary. And I find it can occur from the independent groups toward what they consider non-independent. I don't know how to refer to other groups, but I firmly believe that God is working at his pace with each individual, and amongst the groups God is working with individuals in all the groups. You know, I can see it by knowing people and seeing their attitudes and their love. The main thing, I think one of the hardest separations I had was in the late 90s when a small group acted without love toward the people. There was a controversy, a small one, but then it's how you treat each other during those times. It's really important to love each other. You know, no matter where the people are, love each other. You know, and I think that's what Gail was trying to say about, and Tagore too, about, you know, there was somebody else who mentioned it, about, you know, whether you're part of this country or that country, or, you know, that relevance has no relevance in your relationship individually with your Father, you know, with God and Jesus Christ. So thank you for all you did, Tagore.
Any other comments on the first question? Okay, the next question would be, what can be improved with the series? How can we improve it? And I do know I can say that it kind of evolved from the very beginning to what we have today. You know, we were kind of tweaking it as we went. But is there anything that stands out that we can make better? Sandra?
Not to be made better, but something that I think Tagore picked up on at the beginning. It became repetitious going over a list of new things, you know, the basic list. And when we read through every one of them every week, that would take an extra probably 20 minutes, I'm guessing. But then I think Tagore did a good job at recognizing not to, as it got longer, not to spend so much time on the, I don't, what is it? call the summary or
The recap.
the recap. Oh, yeah, the recap. Yeah, at the beginning, it was too much recap and then that got itself corrected or in line. Thank you.
Thank you, noted that, and actually Don recommended to cut down that recap, taking 20 minutes. So it's a good suggestion. Keep in mind for the next series if there be.
Any other comments for question 2? Question 3, was Greek helpful? Should we reduce or eliminate the Greek words? Willard?
I absolutely love the addition of the Greek. It is extremely helpful. It's good to know the deeper meaning of the English words that we study, and it can only be done by explaining the Greek. And I really appreciate that. I don't think anything should be eliminated in that. If anything, I would vote for more. Even it's very helpful to a deeper, a deeper understanding.
Galen? You're muted. Galen, if you're talking, you're muted.
Hi, sorry. I was just chatting, trying to type. On the second question, I was just wondering if there could be, I know you drew pictures. That's very good. But maybe you could also add real pictures or real, like, where this place is or what it looks like. I know we can draw upon it from pictures of Israel where it is, but sometimes a visual representation of what the actual, not the normal easy to find pictures of or symbols or just what this symbol means, but just a few more pictures. Sorry, the fine arts in me or the child in us all needs them too. Thank you. Oh, of the Greek, I'm great with that. I'm so thankful. Maybe even add Hebrew to it, which you already do. Thank you.
Dan?
Yeah, with reference to the Greek, I think that's an excellent idea to continue to look at that, because we know that whatever translation we're using, there's always a chance that denominational bias can come in, maybe not intentionally when the translators are translating, but in the back of their minds, subconsciously, they may have certain doctrines that their organization believes, and you know that influence is going to creep into the translation sooner or later, more than likely. So I think the willingness to look at the Greek to see what the Greek does say can help us grasp an idea more accurately. I'm done.
Alan likes the idea. Oh, go ahead, Alan.
No, this is Charlene. As far as the Greek is concerned, I really like that the Greek words are given to us, and I really appreciate that you're not speaking in Greek. You give us the words, but then I've been around people that have then just start speaking Greek, and it just loses me. So I do appreciate the Greek, but I don't want to have Greek spoken because I'm not Greek. I need to keep up in English. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to question 4. Was length of the presentations okay? Can it be shorter or just right for you to focus and learn? Willard?
I've got something to say about every one of these. I think it's strictly up to the presenter. He has a point to make, a place to go. He spent a lot of time in preparation. Whatever it takes, I'm willing. I'm here for information. I'm here to learn. And I don't want to put any restrictions on that. If it's short, it's short. If it's long, it's long. Whatever it takes to cover the material, that's prepared for us. So I have no problems with it, with the length at all. I could I could listen to Tagore teach for hours. Are you kidding me? But I mean, that's just me. But I think the length is just absolutely fine. I am grateful for the amount of time I know that it takes him to prepare this. So I'm willing to listen to every word of it. Thank you.
Sandra?
Yeah, I have several small thoughts. I really like using the amount that Tagore goes into the Greek. I've been reading the Bible and studying it by that same method for 50 years. Looking into the Greek, and I have books that help me to do that, and that really aids in understanding the verse itself and eliminating errors in the verse. And then something that when Al talks in the open sessions, what he has always helped me with is my mind cannot place well, I wish I knew how to say this. I think Charlene knows how to say it, like who is contemporary to who, and the timeline as the real timeline as to how things occurred, and history. I guess I would refer to it as Al's knowledge of history. He has always, and still sometimes, I hear him in discussion, help understanding exactly where we're at in each book of the Bible. And let me see, there was that fourth question. What was the length? The length is good. Yeah, I don't see any need for correction on that. Because beyond, if the Bible study part went, right now it goes about an hour, just hour to hour and a half. When you count from 15 minutes after. But if you went like another hour on that for the study part, that would be hard for concentration.
Alan?
As far as the length of time, I mean, I'm fine with extended studies, hour and a half, 2 hours is fine for me. But if you wanted to appeal to the digital age of 20 somethings, you would have to do the condensed version. So since they're not generally on this Zoom meeting, it's not going to be a matter of need for that. But if this were to be something that younger people would be exposed to, it would have to be condensed and down to maybe half-hour sessions. Now, you could give all the same information. You would just have to break it into half-hour sessions. As far as what could be improved upon, I've never seen anybody do this, but as you go plotting through each chapter, is it possible to have a timeline from chapter 1? Like in chapter 1, we see that he meets Nathaniel, he meets Andrew and Peter. And then to try to get a timeline of how long was it from there to chapter 2, the wedding at Cana, to chapter 4, and so forth, or chapter 3 when he talks to Nicodemus. I've never seen anyone actually do a timeline of the gospel, but if it were possible to add a little information about how is this the first or second year or the third year, because one of the things I notice is the triumphal entry, it comes to us right around chapter 12 of John, and then we only have about a week and 40 days later, right? A week after the triumphal entry is Passover, and then we have 40 days to the ascension. So almost half of the book of John takes place in the last 8 weeks. Takes place in about 8 weeks. Almost half of the book. So I don't know if a timeline would help or not for people to kind of place it, each chapter of how far along in that 3.5 year ministry it was. And I think it was Galen maybe that mentioned maps or other visual aids. If we had like a image of the Sea of Galilee, or if we had an image of some archaeological finds from Bethlehem or anything like that, that just kind of sparks a little interest in the physical, so that as we move into the spiritual, there's more groundwork laid in the physical realm. Sometimes photographs and imagery does help in that way. But these are just peripheral things. They're not really essential things at all. But it adds fluff. You could say it that way too. It does add a little fluff, which sometimes people are drawn to that. And it does add a little interest, a little flair. Let me put it that way. It adds a little flair to the whole thing, but it's not necessary.
Sandra?
Yeah, Al, that's exactly what I was talking about. Like, even as simply as looking at just the book of John, you understand the timeline, the timeframes that are passing, and you have that mind for the entire Bible. That helps when we're in group studies. But there was something, what was the last thing said? Oh, about Greek. I can't imagine. Oh, I said that about not going into the Greek. in the pace. Oh, and I agree that the visual aids are for people who are visual and are not essential, but more like fluff, but for people who are visual, it would help.
Willard?
This is another comment of a general nature, I guess. I want to express my appreciation for the timely posting of the presentations on YouTube, because hey, I confess, I can't fool you. The many nights that you have signed off and I'm still signed on, because I'm an old guy. I normally go to sleep before the sun goes down this time of year. So, staying awake gets a little difficult at my age. So I doze off and sleep like a rock. I mean, I love falling asleep. I fall asleep praying sometimes. I can't think of a better way to fall asleep. So but I review every one of these of the presentations, including the discussions. There's sometimes as much to be learned from the discussions as there is from the presentation. They're very valuable, but I like to review them as soon as possible. And I thank you so much for posting those as quickly. I know there are other things to do that you have to do, and I appreciate you getting to those when you do.
I can't speak for Tagore because he has his own webpage, but Peggy usually works on the like tonight's presentation. She will be working on editing it and getting it ready to be posted during the coffee clutch. So she tries to get on it right away so it doesn't get to be a backlog. But thank you. Sandra?
Yes, I just wanted to go back to what Al said versus what I said about the length of the presentation. I can't imagine a half hour. The presenter could not accomplish what they need to in a half hour. I know Al specified that would be for the younger generation, but I put more than an hour and a half, and not to get lengthy until 2 hours or more. I didn't intend to shorten by any means below an hour and a half.
Willard?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that comment in that to have a presentation, it would take an entirely different type of session to appeal to the young people. There's too much meat in these presentations to try to cram it into a small package like that. It would suffer. Even if you broke it up, it would suffer. That would be, if you want to do something for young people, targeted young people, would take an entirely different, I don't think you could do it really. And I'm sorry to say that, but I don't think they're prepared. A young person would be prepared to accept this type of teaching. Unfortunate as it is, we don't in this age of instant gratification, it's just not possible. So I like having the presentations as they are. As a friend of mine, Paul Price, Paul's 84 years old, and as he says to me, he says, Will, he says, we're studying for our final exams. I like that. It's very true. And I appreciate the amount of meat that's presented to us.
Yeah, if a younger person does want to, or someone that, can't do it all at once, you can always go back to YouTube or download it and go at it with your own pace. So, any other comments on question 4? Question 5. Was pace of presentation okay? Can it be slowed down or is it just right? I personally think it's just right. Any other thoughts?
Ditto.
Dan?
Yeah, I just gave it a thumbs up to what you said, Dan.
Go ahead, Stan.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, Don, that the pace was just right. And as I'd mentioned before, that's because I don't believe Tagore had an agenda as far as on this calendar date, we have to be at this chapter, by this calendar date, we have to have completed this many number of chapters, because that agenda was absent and the Spirit was leading. I, like you, Don, felt that the pace was just right. I'm done.
Okay, question 6. Were visual aids and charts helpful, or should we do away with them? I think we've kind of already touched on maybe adding some. What were your thoughts on this? Willard?
Was wondering maybe if we could pass the hat and take up a collection to get Tagore some art lessons. No, I say that in jest. They're understood nonetheless. I like them. Thank you.
I know my sketches are awful, but trying to make some improvement. Peggy actually has volunteered to collect some pictures in future and make them available so that I can just embed them in PowerPoint presentation slides. Yeah, I'm noting down all your comments.
No,
make
it's
yourself
really hard to. It's really hard to draw with a mouse. I tried that. It's not fun.
That's
And
right. It is hard. The mouse, like the line, it tries to fill up its own lines, so the whole thing gets damaged. I sometimes use Microsoft Whiteboard, slightly better, but I can't switch between PowerPoint and Microsoft PowerPoint Whiteboard.
You make yourself understood very well, but your attempts, even though they lack polish and perfection, you make yourself very well understood. It's not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tagore and Peggy will work together in the future. He'll give her a list of what he needs before the presentation, and she'll put something together. Sandra?
Yeah, I hate to see that pressure put on Tagore, because that would be so time consuming to come up with like Peggy's going to do now, to come up with the right visual aid that would enhance the Bible study. It's not Tagore's expertise, and it would take him a lot of time. And even for Peggy, I think it'll take a lot of time to represent what he's trying to draw. I think that's a very difficult change for Tagore to make. And I hate to see the pressure put on him.
Alan?
Yeah, maybe if Tagore would assign it to somebody else to go out on the web and just get a few images, 2 or 3 images for each presentation. Like, for example, when we talk about in John chapter 9, the blind man who was blind from his birth, it would be pretty easy to get images of the blind and their inability to care for themselves. Or let's say when the wedding at Cana, to get images of an ancient wedding, what it might look like, and what the ancient pots that would have water turned into wine would look like. If Tagore could assign that to somebody and say, look, I need an image of this and an image of this other thing, and then that person could go and spend 10 or 15 minutes looking around and collect a few images. That way you're getting some assistance without having to find those things on your own. And the person doesn't have to do artwork. They just have to go find the imagery, right? So things like that. I mean, whatever the topic at hand is, there's probably some imagery out there having to do with that, right? Like, let's say when he spoke to Nicodemus and he says, the Son of Man must be lifted up, even as Moses raised up the serpent. There's all kinds of images out there of, like, for example, Blue Cross has the image of a pole with a serpent wrapped around it. Blue Cross Blue Shield. Or you would be able to find all kinds of other images of the serpent wrapped around a pole. But then Tagore wouldn't have to do it. All he would have to do is ask somebody, can you find these 2 different kinds of images for me, or 3, so that they would be available. And it's just a thought, without having to put the burden on Tagore to do that. Oh, by the way, if you just go to AI, Charlene reminded me, if you go to AI, it will produce those images and give you a variety to choose from. It generates those images anew, afresh, without having a copy from someone else. So you never have a copyright problem. And it'll do it almost instantly.
Yeah, I'm thinking of trying that, Alan, in future. AI is very handy, especially the unstructured diagrams. A beast with 10 heads and 7 horns and 10 diadems. So we have strange combinations which would not exist in nature. So some hypothetical structure needs to be constructed. So
Although that kind of imagery tends to entertain a little bit anyway. Whatever it is you're out there collecting or generating with AI, it tends to hold people a little more with the entertainment aspect of that imagery.
Willard?
Yes, two of Tagore's illustrations come to mind that would be extremely hard to find anything or to ask someone to produce without a knowledge of what he has in mind. Well, the first one is the parallels of coming out of Egypt, and having Moses as the leader and traversing, the Sinai and coming to the Promised Land. The spiritual, the physical, and the spiritual aspects, the former and the latter, and the other is the Holy of Holies. I remember his illustrating that. Very, very, very helpful. I don't care how badly it's done. It was crucial to the presentation. I think that he's probably the only one that could come up with that concept. So I don't think it can be 100% farmed out, and I'm willing to bear with his level of art. We get him a new box of crayons. I mean, that's I'm teasing, but those types of things, I can't imagine someone being able to offer much assistance with.
Peggy's mumbling back here. All we need to know is the concept, and we can put anything together. Photoshop has got unbelievable photo libraries and piece libraries, and Photoshop itself, you can merge 2 images together and look like one image is blurring into another image. I mean, with the computer, anything's possible these days. So it can be done. Sandra?
Yeah, so the image that comes to my mind is like when we're learning, or he's trying to convey early on, it was like the position of God the Father and Jesus Christ, and then he went down through shepherding and through the that become can't get the word. I think that it's more important for him to try to draw the stick figure and show us that he's just what he's trying to convey with those images is more of a simple explanation of what he's saying. I mean, I think it'd become obvious if you look back at some of the illustrations that it wasn't for entertainment or to highlight anything. Or I like the example that Willard gave too, about the temple, and he drew the candlesticks and those things. I think his stick images are fine.
yeah, the PowerPoint helps me to draw circles and arrows and squares and boxes. Those are for spiritual new covenantal binding, Father in Son and Son in us. So those kind of things are pretty easy to generate. But a man walking, a blind man healed, it's a little bit more challenge for me to draw with freehand diagrams. That's where the difficulty comes. But we will find some ways, since that's helpful. I am more like an abstract thinking type, but not everybody is exactly like me. They want some physical place, physical picture that makes them more sense. They can relate more to the story, to the teaching. So if that is the case, we will go with that. Definitely. I'm noting down all the points. I'm actually recording this.
Yeah, we done with 6?
Yeah.
Okay, 7. Were the follow-up discussions helpful? What can we do better with them?
I want to say big thank you to Alan. He's so faithful to participate in the discussion every time without fail. I would say he is the chief contributor for the follow-up discussions, Alan.
Yep, you need that one person to break the ice and get things rolling. Alan is our man. He's the guy standing on top of a snowy hill who takes and makes that snowball and starts it rolling.
And I can even change a light bulb at the same time.
Wow.
Or maybe I can eat a donut at the same time.
So how many software engineers does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know how many.
None, it's hardware.
Oh. Yeah, well, thank you for your comment, Tagore. I appreciate your saying that. I enjoy participating enough that that's what I want to do. It's not forced. It's just my nature is to want to contribute and to try to keep interest flowing and to try to add some value. So it's what I like to do and thoroughly enjoy, and it helps me a lot to be able to participate in that way. So I'm glad that it tends to dovetail well and adds a little to it.
But you enhance the discussions and extend them. You see a lot more scriptures on specific topics than the main presentation. That really helps the teacher, the speaker, the presenter, and I'm sure that helped others also, the participants. Sometimes just you and me are talking all the time. Would that be annoying to people, or?
To answer that question there, I think a lot of people find that interesting, just like listening to the interaction between you two. Willard?
Yes, yeah, I find it interesting when I hear it, and that brings up the point about discussion. I enjoy the discussions. That's usually I'll drift off again, and I apologize to you for doing that, but I make excuses for myself because I'm old and I go to bed early. But on that note, I want to say thank you for this wonderful discussion. And please note, I'm still awake, but not for long. So I'm going to tell all of you happy Sabbath and good night, Shabbat Shalom. And thank you so much for this wonderful session, the wonderful teaching, and this wonderful discussion. And good night, all. Bless you.
Good night.
Good night, Willard. Thank you.
Marlene.
Yes, good night, Willard. Yeah, I find your conversations between Alan and Tagore just very interesting, and things that you said, Tagore, about Alan is definitely true, very, very beneficial. Part of the question is, what can we do better with the discussions? I think they've overall been great. And I think over the last year, too, that we've had improvement on the area of not saying negative things about other organizations. A lot of those things just don't have to be said. And I think we've improved a lot on that. I think it still could get cleaned up, though. And that would be the only thing I'd look to say that we could do better at this point. My concern is that I do invite some of my friends to join on this, and then when they hear the negative comments about organizations, previous organizations, it really turns them off. So that's kind of a concern for me there. Yeah, the politics and political things going on with the religions just doesn't need to be there. There's so much of God's word to focus on and discuss, and that's what I really enjoy this session with.
Yeah, noted your point, Marlene. I think you mentioned this also other times. We shouldn't be putting down others, including our own background, WCG or Herbert. Should just focus on truth. I think that way we are true custodians of the gospel work that is given to us. Should be faithful to our calling and our commission to take the truth out. So the criticism, if it is turning off people and pushing them away, which is not a good thing in sight of man or sight of God. So it's rather like eye-opening. So we would be more careful, both on Tuesday nights as well as Friday nights.
Alan?
Yeah, I think follow-up discussions could be richer and there could be more engagement if people did a homework assignment of studying the section or the chapter that's going to be covered in advance. For example, if John 6 is coming up on Friday night, they should receive this assignment, read through John 6, meditate, and pray on that chapter before coming to the Friday night study. Now, I know not everybody's going to do that, but if the assignment was given, if there's an email that goes out and it says, you know, there's going to be a Friday night presentation on John chapter 6, and it's a continuation of the study we're doing, please read through, study and pray on this so that you're prepared when you come. I think that would help number 7, where the follow-up discussions helpful. Because if you're prepared in advance, you have more in your brain, more ideas and more preparation to engage the study. Now, I know not everyone's going to do that, but somebody might do it. So it's almost like we should have a homework assignment before each study, before each Friday. It's just an idea. Maybe you think it's silly.
It's a little bit work for Don and Peggy. For my presentations, I can always send in a couple of days ahead of time what scriptures and what topics I'm gonna present. And people, if somebody wants to review them beforehand, that's wonderful. Again, subject to the comfort level of Don and Peggy. But thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah, I could get more details in the announcement that I send out on Wednesdays. This is the top. We have a synopsis ahead of time. I can kind of include that or say, okay, we're going to cover chapter 5, verses 1 through 35 or whatever. You know, I can even throw, Chris DeWeese does this a lot. He throws questions in. We're going to cover this, that, and this. And why did God do this? You know, he throws out this question. So you have to look it up. On his announcements, he does that a lot to try to spark people to think. So I suppose I could copy that. But yeah, we can do that. We can get that out there. Phil?
So I put in the chat a couple of questions. Is non-confrontational interactions always the best? And on the surface, we say, blessed are the peacemakers. But yet in real life, Yeshua had many controversial conflicts, and he didn't shy away from them. And the apostles told us to confront wolves. And we even had a presentation here about from these, what's the saying, from these flee or stay away from.
Yeah, that would be from such turn away.
There, I thought I'd get that out of you. So how do we actually make both of these work? I mean, everybody likes to have nice, peaceful dialogue, but we're not taught how to manage wolves. So we get bitten a lot. What's really cool about this, our conversations here, usually is that people are adult enough and can control their emotions enough on the unusual that they raise their hands and they take turns and things are done rightly and in order. But that's not always the case. So how do we foster others to adopt the adult mature way of managing themselves? And then we can have these really nice dialogues and learn a lot. Thank you.
Well, on Tagore's study, we really haven't had any all-out brawls. We've had a few fervent discussions. But that's kind of my job. And I'm learning as we go. In other presentations, where someone has been presenting one item, we have had a few times where things got a little out of control, and I have developed policies as to what we're going to do. But that's kind of my job, maintain order. And if someone gets out of line and they are totally disrespectful, then they get put in the waiting room. And if they don't not respectful after that, then they get put out and they can't come back. So, but yeah, that's my job. I'm still learning and growing in that area. But when you have talks about iron sharpening iron, you will get sparks flying. And I understand that. So, yeah, it has to be, like you're saying, it has to be done respectfully. You can have a
And
different opinion.
that's not always a bad thing to have friction, because a good adult, mature dialogue that has conflicting viewpoints that makes people think, they grow in knowledge. And that can be a good thing if it's done with respect. So
Right.
I guess the question is, how do we foster this and train this adult, mature type of interaction so other people can emulate maybe what we model as far as respect and consideration go?
By
I guess
example,
that's the ask.
that by example, someone comes into the room, they see how we're operating. It's the example that we're setting to someone who's new. Anyone who's not new, who has come in and is causing a problem, has an agenda, won't take no for an answer, is talking over people, then it's my job to say, okay, look, it's a timeout for you. Put them back in the waiting room. Marlene?
Yeah, I think the answer is what's already been done and you are doing, Don, the way you handle things, and Tagore, the way you respond. I mean, that's the example that's set, to respond with somebody that disagrees with you, Tagore, with respect and gentleness and yet firmness, and you take your stand and you agree to disagree, and that's the example you set, and that's how people can express their views and feel free to do so. And you don't have to have an all-out brawl. I mean, that's not mature. So I think Tagore sets the right example on how to do that in the discussion. So I think that's what you do. It's examples you set.
Yeah, Tagore does a really good job on that. The other thing is I'm gonna start doing, actually I've already started doing, we've had people come in and do what I call, it's not actual, but I call it sniping. They didn't hear the presentation. They come in during the discussion and take it off topic. So what I've been doing is, where the presentation's wrapping up and someone wants to come in, I basically ignore them. They should have been here for the whole presentation, not just a discussion. So that's something I have been doing more and more. And I think that's helped prevent hijacking of the topic during the discussion.
I want to clarify to Phil. The thing is, Phil, when it's a question of false doctrine, we should not be silent. We should confront. There's a widely circulating false doctrine among the churches of God. It goes like this: why do you over spiritualize brother or sister? There is no such thing as over spiritualization. So I confront face to face. But you can say, some of us, at least me, have loose mouth, loose tongue. So we criticize our former organization sometimes some Church of God. So some people are coming from those organizations and they are turned off because of this criticism. We criticize like this minister did not do that practice, this living Church of God does that. So those kind of things were not building up. It's neither promoting the gospel nor helping us to reach out to the new brethren. So we want to exercise more caution in the subject of criticizing other organizations. So we want to tone down. I'm done.
Phil?
So Crystal and I, when we were in the Seventh-day Baptist, met a gentleman that was a U.S. Senator, Jennings Randolph. And he was in a nursing home and we'd go over and visit him. And he taught me an extremely right lesson, and he didn't mince words. I started criticizing something, and he said, stop that right now. He says, you don't say anything bad about anyone else. You don't. I think the big lesson that we can really teach people is exactly what Marlene said, and that is a living example of a proper model. We've had all the bad models, but they don't work. It's time to get a good model that nurtures people and feeds them. And that's people that do react to that, and they'll say, gee, that was kind of fun. Let's have some more of that. And they come ready to learn and they become teachable. And it's great. We've had put up with way too much of a bad model before. Christ was right. He was emphatic about it. He says a good tree can give good fruit. A bad tree cannot give good fruit. That's just pretty well black and white. So we need to discover a good tree model and stick with it and oversee each other to maintain that good tree model. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to say good night. Thank you to everyone, and hopefully be talking with you tomorrow morning.
Good night, Marlene.
Good night, Marlene.
Don, you wanted to discuss what next? But most people have gone.
Keep forgetting I gotta be on the screen to use the card. Anyways, I think the doing first, second, third, John would be a good place from here. Because it's continuation, you know, it's of what he was talking about, and it's shorter. You know, it's not quite as long. And then in the time of working through those three books, we can come up with another direction. What is your thoughts?
Maybe when next Friday or sometime you can throw this question to people, because most of them are left. So general consensus, either we should take up first, second, third John, as you are saying, or synoptic gospels, or something else. Either way, I'm good. But we would we are more in favor of first, second, third epistles of John, right?
And yeah, at this point, oh, Peggy's asking about a harmony of the Gospels. I think that's what he meant by. Yeah, that's what he was talking about. First, second, and third John would be third, second, and third John. many books on the end of. Bill? I think I'm unmuted. Yeah. Bill?
I think there's a very powerful lesson here, and Hal and Scarlett have asked me to present it, and I sent it to you too. And that is learning a proper protocols, a proper model. There seems to be two models, two paradigms. One is the paradigm of Christ, Yeshua, how he acted and what he did, and the other is the Pharisaic paradigm or model and what they did. Reason I'm saying that is because once people identify and can actually understand what makes a bad tree and what makes a good tree, then they can use this to generalize when they start hearing a bunch of stuff that other people are trying to teach them. And that's very profitable because now you've got a model that can help people actually grow and stay away from cult mentalities and fall into traps like we fell into before. Abraham Maslow was, again, the great psychologist, said that he did not want to study the sick people and how that made him sick mentally. He wanted to study the well people and the behaviors that made them well. I said, well, that's a pretty good idea, right? You want marriage counseling from somebody that's been married 50 years. You don't want marriage counseling from people that have married 15 times in 15 years.
Sa Monday, Mr. Lulupot ko yung lead mamaya. Magbita lang tayo Monday. For Monday, hayag tayo.
Again, the good teachers teach people how to learn. They don't tell them all the answers. What do you guys think about teaching people how to have critical thinking and how to actually look for good fruit? Thank you.
I think that's a good way to finally end up. You should never spoon feed them to the point it is detrimental to their thinking and critical analysis. But you should help them to develop that critical thinking and promote and nurture that. That's one of my goals. Because after all, you will not be here teaching every verse of the Bible, right? You only have some time, but everybody should start on their own and do their own Bible studies and grow and mature. So, but you have to get people to that state. I know one person, she's from Ohio. She listens to my teachings, and we also discussed that sometime. And she's the first one says, don't spoon feed me. Just drop me hints. I'll pick them up and I'll study myself. Don't spoon feed me. That's her take all the time. She keeps correcting me if I try to explain. So you have people like that, like already in that form. I'm done.
Bill, did you have something more? Right, forget to put your hand up.
I know as a parent, the helicopter parent will destroy the children in growth. The sooner you can trust and have trained the basic protocols for your children, then you need to get out of their way and let them grow. And I'm not talking about just technical information. I'm talking about how to discern and how to grow. Because we're not, Tigger, you're right. We're not going to be there. We can't. It's not our job. Our job is to try to see them grow to the point that they don't need us.
That's a very valuable statement. I 100% agree. Eventually, the teachers should be eliminated from scene. They and God, one-on-one. Absolutely.
And the other point is that we need to guard the people that we disciple, that they don't get choked out, just like Galatia. Who bewitched you, O Galatia? You didn't learn this from me. You didn't learn this from the start. You didn't learn this from Christ. Who bewitched you? Who is stealing your success? That would be a terrible thing if you spend a lot of time discipling people and somebody else, because they don't have this critical thinking and this ability to look for good fruit versus bad fruit, they get bitten off and swallowed up and led astray. That's terrible. Thank you.
So Sandra, you wrote something like, which books do you want next?
Oh, I raised my hand to, no, who was it? To first John, to the first, second, and third John.
Okay,
That's what I was looking forward to going that direction if you choose to.
okay, Epistles of John. You have one more vote. You have more votes for Epistles of John. Okay.
Yeah, I remember when you discussed that several months ago, going in that direction, and then after that, I think you named I don't know what other books, some more of the synoptic books. But like Don said, that was, good. We'll think about that when that comes.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Shall we call it a night now?
Sounds good to me. Is there any other comments or